I'm JJ Ramberg, and welcome to Your Business, the show dedicated to giving you tips and advice to help your small business grow. America's small business owners are anxiously awaiting to see what impact the federal budget cuts, known as the Sequester, will have on their bottom lines. The Budget Control Act, which was passed by Congress and then signed by the President, translates to $85 billion in cuts in spending that many have predicted these cuts will disproportionately harm small businesses. Cuts in the defense budget may hurt the most. The SBA says small businesses that supply defense contractors are already feeling the pinch. Stephen Fuller is the director of the Center for Regional Analysis at George Mason University. He testified before Congress about his study that showed small businesses will suffer major job losses because of the sequester. David Rose is the chairman and CEO of GUST, a collaborative platform for early stage equity. And Gene Marks is the president of the Marks Group and a columnist for the New York Times. Great to see all of you guys. There was so much talk about what will happen if we hit this point, and now we have hit it. So, Stephen, you've written a lot about job losses because of the sequester. Now that we are there, are you seeing anything happen?
Well, you have to look in several different places. Many of these job losses will come later in the year. There are certainly some job losses that affect small businesses right now, but the big impacts are going to come from the payroll reductions that we'll see starting next month on the federal side and also on the private sector side, the federal contractors, as they cut back. Lots of small businesses who are suppliers and vendors who will be impacted. We've talked a lot about how the SBA has helped some small businesses with loan guarantees, and that will be reduced. Do you think that will have a big impact on the economy, or no, it won't affect enough small businesses? Well, I think we're overlooking where the big impact is, and it's not going to be the primes, and it won't be the subcontractors. All of these companies have suppliers and vendors that don't realize they're dependent on federal money. And then we're talking about $30 billion in payroll reductions across the private and public sectors, and that spending, or the absence, the loss of that spending, is going to have a major impact on businesses up and down Main Street. People who don't see themselves related to the federal government, but dependent on the retail sales that are generated by these jobs.
And it's interesting, Gina, as I hear this, I think, okay, the recession was very hard on small companies. In essence, here is something that may be taken away from you, but you have some warning.
Right. And it's funny. I mean, when you talk about small businesses, there's 20 to 30 million small businesses in the country, so it's tough to kind of generalize for everybody. And there's no question that what Professor Fuller is saying is right. There's going to be some job losses. If you're in the D.C. area, you're going to be hit. That's an area where the government spends a lot of money. And if you're in the defense business, or if you're selling a lot of education services or something to the government, you'll be hit as well. But I do take issue though when people say that all small businesses will be hit. I take issue with the fact that some small businesses aren't planning ahead. Because JJ, you're right. We've known this is going to be coming, and the smart guys that I know have diversified themselves a little bit. So, I don't want to sound unsympathetic, but if your business is built entirely around the U.S. government and you're just getting government payments for what you're doing, and that's your only customer, I question whether you're really doing the right thing and being smart when you're running your business. You should be diversified.
All right, so what should these people be doing now? What should people be worried about who may be affected by this?
Well, the first question is who is being affected. So on the one hand, as Professor Fuller says, if your business is servicing the federal government or a prime contractor over there, you're going to be in trouble. I mean, if you have the coffee shop right in front of a federal installation where they're laying off or furloughing people, you're going to be in trouble. But if you're a typical Main Street business, the trickle-down effect is actually going to be relatively small. On the other hand, if you're somebody whose entire business is based on federal contracts, as we were saying, you're host, and there's no planning that you can do in the next month or 6 weeks to make that all go away.
And just an example, I have a client that has a couple of retail stores actually in the D.C. area, and so D.C. area is slow, and so he's kind of concerned about that. What he's actually thinking of doing, he's thinking of opening up another store. He's been planning on doing that, but not in the D.C. area. He's now looking at other parts of the country where he can do that, where there's more money available and the economic situation is a little bit better.
Stephen, will there be any surprises? I mean, should the people who are going to be affected by this know that they will be if they just pay some attention, ask the right questions?
What's going to happen is that in very isolated cases, some communities that are so dependent on federal spending, perhaps Huntsville, Alabama, where NASA is really big and dominant, or Hampton Roads, where the Navy's so important. They don't have a diversified economy. They are a one-company town in many ways, and there's others of these around military bases. Those companies, if they weren't prepared last year for this, they're going to be really surprised this year. There's just less spending, and we see it already as consumers, whether they're federal workers or contractors or just sympathetic consumers, pull back on their retail spending. So there's going to be impacts in isolated areas, and we can identify those. I think more broadly.
That's specifically the point. It is these isolated areas that are heavily dependent on the government in one way or another. This is not something that's going to have a devastating effect across small business across America. The 20 million to 30 million businesses out there. It's going to be it's going to hurt the economy, or it's going to affect the economy. But this is not going to be a traumatic thing that's going to knock us over the cliff.
And just so you know, I mean, my business will be affected as well. I mean, we have like 500 clients. We have a couple dozen that do work with the government. They provide, they buy technology services from us, and those people are going to probably be cutting back on spending with me. So that indirectly affects me. The only thing I can tell you is that, like Professor Fuller said, if people are unprepared, that's not a good situation to be in. I mean, really smart business owners are looking ahead 2 to 3 years from now. They're like trying to anticipate what's going to happen and making plans for that. So if you're unprepared for something like this, there has been plenty of time to prepare.
All right, all three of you guys, thank you so much. We've been following this very closely, and we certainly will continue to, because the effects haven't happened yet.